Welcome to the So What Show, guys. We're coming out of Street Poison by Iceberg Slim, the biography of Iceberg Slim. So let's get started. We're gonna start where we ended off at and go from there. They admitted that while they knew these writers, they were more interested in the books of the former pimp turned writer from Chicago named Iceberg Slim. One of them produced a dog-eared copy of Pimp, and I thumbed through the autobiography for a few minutes before the teacher came back into the room. In those brief few moments, I didn't really understand what I was looking at. The gold cover had Pimp. Pimp. Embezzled in purple letters across the front and a hand-drawn silhouette of a man's hardened face underneath. It reminded me of a Harlequin-style romance novel. Here again, I missed an opportunity to expand my knowledge of African-American literature. Pimp was certainly not being taught or read at the University of Chicago, and I was so focused on my research of the canon, I forgot all about the book for the next 5 years. Finally, in the summer of 2003, I made a discovery that would entirely change the direction of my life's work. I was now a PhD candidate at the University of Virginia. Let's check that out. How we gonna do that? Hold on just a second, fam. Get it up. So what'd he say? He was at the University of Chicago. Let's check that out. Okay. And I was so focused on my research of the canon, I forgot all about the book for the next 5 years. Let me see here. Pimp was certainly not being taught or read at the University of Chicago, and I was so focused on my research of the canon, I forgot all about the book for the next 5 years. Finally, in the summer of 2003, I made a discovery that would entirely change the direction of my life's work. I was now a PhD candidate at the University of Virginia. Okay. And I was composing a dissertation on crime and detective fiction. Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain, Ramon Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, and Chester Himes. Let's look at these folks, see who we're talking about. I know on the last one, it was a lot of white folks. He up in the university, what they studying up in there? Edgar Allan Poe, who was this? Another white man. Let's see who else. Mark Twain, I know Mark Twain is a white man. Who else? Ramon. Chandler, another white man. Seal, Hammett, another white man. Study number white men. See what else. And Chester Himes. Oh, there go a black man on that one. Okay. I had come to New York City to search for rare and out-of-print copies. New York City, we all know what New York City looks like. That right there. Those were the days when used bookstores still survived in Manhattan. I was particularly interested in tracking down the works of Chester Himes. Yeah, the black guy. The only African-American detective novelist that I knew of. I haunted the usual spots. The Strand on Broadway. The Strand on Broadway. Okay. The Mysterious Bookstore. Mysterious Bookstore. Human Bookstore. In Harlem. And then I remembered the book table that I had encountered years earlier. The table was no longer there on 125th and Lenox, but down 125th Street in the front of the Apollo Theater. For you babies, I know y'all may not know what that's at. There was another table stacked with black authored paperback novels. They had garish, black plantation style covers with exaggerated drawings of pimps and gangsters and prostitutes busting out of their skimpy outfits. I was fascinated with the titles, such as Whore Song. Oh boy. Know about that. Black Gangster. Okay, here goes Whore Song right here. Donald Goines. Yeah. Donald Goines books. Trick Daddy. I read that one. Used to have that too. I don't know if this ain't that Trick Daddy though. But all right. Trick Baby, that's what it is. Trick Daddy. Trick Baby. There it is. That's the one I had. Look more like this. The Jones Men. Ghetto Sketches. You can just play me in your house while you're chilling. That's it right there, most likely. And the scene. You know about that book. I don't know about that book. All right. I had never heard of any of these writers. Donald Goins, Nathan Hurd, Vern E. Smith, Clarence Cooper, and Odie Hawkins. Okay. So we got to Donald Goins, but don't know what he looked like. There you go. Like, yeah, kind of look familiar in the way there. Donald Goins, okay. Nathan Hurd. Nathan Hurd. You know about him, man. Let me put Arthur. It's probably him right there. I don't know yet. We're gonna narrow this down a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Brother Nathan Hurd. House of Slammers. Let me see, I'm gonna put a black author. Narrow down some more. So yeah, most likely this is him. Arthur Nathan Dallas. Oh, definitely him right here. Nathan C. Hurds. So let's get that C up in there. Narrow it down some more. Yep, that's him. Hey, what the heck is he doing? Vern E. Smith. Oh, like he got too many pictures. This is a book right here, the Jones Men. Trying to narrow them down. Maybe he ain't got no pictures. Clarence Cooper. Let's see. I don't know why I can't spell it right now. Okay, so this is probably him right here. Yeah, both of them. It's in the older state. Clarence Cooper Jr. Mm-hmm. They're all on Odie Hawkins. Okay. Kind of like that guy playing the movies. That's him right there. Mm-hmm. Okay. In fact, the only book that was the least bit familiar was Robert Beck's Pimp, The Story of My Life. Now, that's Iceberg Slim. Yeah. The autobiography I had encountered years earlier in Chicago, but had overlooked. Now, here it was in front of me again at the center of a puzzle that would take me another decade to solve. I pushed Hammett and Poe to the side and focused on reconstructing the story of Beck and African-American crime literature. Over the next year, I spent all of my spare time and money tracking down rare and out-of-print copies of Beck's novels, as well as books by other Black writers in the genre. I learned quickly that these were not books one could find in mainstream bookstores or libraries. So I did a lot of searching on used bookstore websites. One resource in particular proved more useful than any other. A new outline auction site called eBay had just recently become popular. And I found hundreds of pulpy paperbacks in my search for first edition Black crime novels. Start rapping and changing. In the summer of 2004, I was doing my usual search for Iceberg Slim materials when I came across a number of auctions selling former pimps, actual suits, silk shirts, and alligator shoes. I researched further and discovered that his widow, Diane Beck, was selling all of his clothes to raise money for a children's charity. I followed these auctions for days, and at the last minute, I swooped in and bought 2 matching velvet suits, a flannel suit, a red silk shirt, and 4 pairs of dress shoes. After the auction, I contacted Miss Beck and asked her if I could come interview her in Los Angeles. She agreed, and we met at a Starbucks in Silver Lake near her home. We talked for many hours, and she told me about Beck's passion for writing, the radical political views that he shared with Black Panthers, and his ongoing struggles over royalty payments with his white publisher, which lasted until his death. And y'all know who the Black Panthers is, right? I hope you do, but just in case you don't, get acquainted. get familiar. And that show, ain't it? That's the wrong Black Panther. Let's put it off. See what pop up. Oh my God. Here we go. Now that look like the NFC. Not fuck around coalition. Now this is the Black Panthers right here. That's the Black Panthers right there. Okay. That's the Black Panthers. And now, where the heck am I at in this bad boy? Be flowing and then be going off the page. You know what I'm talking about? You know, the Black Panthers, they brought the school lunch program into the school system. For them, they didn't care about us going to school or our children eating at school. We just going to school to learn. They didn't know nothing about us not having food at home and then had to go to school and still don't eat and get home and hopefully get something to eat. But see, our people knew about it, and Black Panthers just definitely knew about it because they was our people, and they implemented that into the school program. Most definitely. Now I'm gonna have to do a little speed reading to figure out where I was at. I'm going too fast. No, I can't be way down there again. No, I may not even be on that page yet. Man, I'm off the page. I'm gonna have to give me a little marker. So when I stop, I know from now on. Because now I gotta find. Oh yeah, we over here somewhere. I do remember that. Okay, here we go. The radical political views that he shared with the Black Panthers and his ongoing struggles over royalty payments with his white publisher, which lasted until his death. This was just the first of many meetings I would have with Miss Beck, and over the years she provided me with Beck's unpublished writings, his royalty statements, book contracts, and fan letters. More important, she offered her personal insights and heartfelt stories about her late husband, which would shape the direction of my research for 10 years. Most recently, she shared with Mr. Beck's unpublished novel, Shetani's Sister, which had been locked in a drawer for 20 years, and which now, due to her generosity, is being published by Vintage Books in 2015. Shetani. See if it's on here. Shetani's Sister. Yep, that's him. That book right there. It was about this time that I also met Bentley Morris. Bentley Morris. Well, that can't be him. I don't think. Let's see if we can see what Miss Beck look like? What she look like? Oh, she's a white woman. So Mr. Beck, wife was white, maybe. I don't know. Is that a dude? Well, that may be his wife. I don't know. I don't know. Don't see too much on her. Iceberg Slim family. So let's see here. She pretty. That may be her right there. Don't see much. Nope, don't see much. All right. Enough searching at the moment. Let's get back to it. It was about this time that I also met Bentley Morris, the man who was almost single-handedly responsible for bringing Beck's works into the public consciousness. Somewhere along the line, I realized Beck had published all of his works with Holloway House Publishing Company. Holloway House. Okay. A white-owned, Los Angeles-based imprint that had put out works by many Black crime writers, including Odie Hawkins, Donald Goines, Omar Fletcher, Amos Brooke, and a few dozen others. The company had also published Black romances, biographies of famous African Americans for grade school children, and the first commercially successful Black Playboy spinoff titled Players, which had been edited by Los Angeles unofficial poet Louis Wanda Coleman, as well as Emory Holmes and Joseph Nazeo. Let's see who Wanda Coleman is. A lot of people just don't be giving their props. Never know him, and it passed away and stuff. Wanda, Black woman. Emory Holmes. Most likely is, I think, most likely, yeah, Black man. Joseph Nazeo. See some books though. This picture may be in there somewhere. But this other guy, Omar Fletcher. It's most likely. I don't know if that's him though. Probably somewhere up in there. Omar Fletcher. Amos Brooke. It's the book. Most likely him in there. I don't know. Let's keep going. Okay. The magazine, together with the company's so-called Black experience novels, made Holloway House an important but underappreciated niche publisher of African-American materials. I interviewed owner and CEO Bentley Morris in 2004, and he was surprisingly forthcoming about his original motivations for publishing Black-themed literature. He didn't do it for political reasons. He did it, like all savvy businessmen, for the money. Although he met resistance from racist distributors in the 1960s who didn't believe that Blacks read books. He pushed ahead because he and his business partner, Ralph Weinstock, their last name, probably up in there somewhere. Ralph Greenstock believed that there was a market for African-American paperback originals. He was right. Beck's works alone had sold 6 million copies by the time of his death in 1992. And Holloway House had published about 400 titles by the time it sold off its assets to Kensington Publishing in 2008. I continued to search for Black experience, novels, and Players magazine, both online and in my travels. I scored used bookstores and thrift shops in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Brooklyn, San Francisco, and Cleveland. Players magazine was particularly difficult to find. So I don't know if you've been to Philly or not. Well, let's broaden some minds today. That's Philadelphia right there. Okay. Get a good look. This is that's Los Angeles right there. All right. This is Brooklyn. All right. This is San Francisco right there. And this is Cleveland. Okay. Players magazine was particularly difficult to find. Players magazine. There were only a handful of issues stored on microfilm at the Vulnerable Schoenberg Center for Research in Black Culture in New York. And everyone else I talked to regarded it as smut. As a last resort, I drove from my home in Reno, where I was now a professor, to San Francisco, where there is a vintage pornographic magazine store called simply The Magazine. When I arrived and asked if they had copies of Players, the owner smiled knowingly and then headed down a steep staircase into the basement, where he apparently kept the good stuff. When he came back with a few employees, they were carrying 4 large boxes, a nearly complete collection of magazines that a guy had sold them just the day before. I'm thinking it should say magazines, but it said magazine. Magazine that a guy had sold them just the day before. In my excitement at having located his literary fortune, I bought the whole collection and loaded it into the back of my Explorer. Before I realized, I now didn't have any money for a hotel. So I parked my truck at the dead end on Belgrave Avenue, unfurled my sleeping bag, and crawled into the back among my giant piles of porn. And as I lay there with my flashlight, illegally camping while thumbing through dozens of African-American men's magazines, I realized that I would have a difficult time explaining to any cop who came by that I was doing research. Perhaps my biggest break came in 2008 when I was contacted by George Hinojosa. George Hinojosa. Let me see here. There we go. Okay. The longtime manager of Ice-T. Everybody know who Ice-T is, right? Just in case you don't know who Ice-T is, there he is. Take up the whole screen, that's what I'm talking about. That's when you know you're hot. Ain't no other. He was making a documentary film about Beck entitled Iceberg Slim, Portrait of a Pimp. And he had heard through Diane Beck that I was a scholar of Black crime literature. Okay, so Diane Beck, that must be his wife. First name. She may be a white woman. Let me see, Diane Beck. No. Maybe her. This the book we in right now. No. But anyway, he had heard through Diane Beck that I was a scholar of Black crime literature. He asked if I wanted to appear in the film as a literary expert. I agreed, but on the condition that he would allow me access to documents, interviews, and other materials that I couldn't track down on my own. This turned out to be one of the greatest additions to my research I could have hoped for. Mr. Hinojosa was for the past 6 years provided me with more significant research materials than any other person or institution involved in this project, apart from Miss Beck. He copied countless documents for me, including FBI files and prison records, gave me access to interviews with Beck's friends and family members, some of whom are now deceased. And he tracked down rare television interviews and appearances that I simply did not have the clout to retrieve on my own. Long after the film was completed, as recently as the summer of 2013, Mr. Hinojosa invited me into his home time and time again, allowing me to sit in his office and pore over documents and other materials he had tracked down in his own obsessive pursuit of knowledge about Beck's life. I owe him a great debt of gratitude, as this project would be incomplete without him. In the years since I worked on the film, I have pursued information on the life and works of Beck in a number of other unconventional ways. I conducted interviews with Black writers who at one time worked for Holloway House, including novelist Odie Hawkins and Ronald S. Jefferson, as well as Players Magazine editors Emory Holmes and the late Wanda Coleman. I traveled to Detroit, where I met Eddie B. Allen, the biographer of Donald Goines. Okay, Eddie B. Allen. Eddie. Hey Eddie. Eddie B. Allen. Where you at? Okay. And Roland S. Jefferson. Kind of looked like he was a pimp himself. Got his pimp suit on. No, just joking. All right, I don't know. I traveled to Detroit, where I met Eddie B. Allen, the biographer of Donald Goines. Goines had been a pimp in his own right in Detroit's Paradise Valley. Detroit Paradise Alley. What you know about that? Valley, right? I'm saying alley. Okay. Valley. Get it right. Okay. In the 1950s, and he looked to Beck as his literary mentor. After reading Beck in prison in 1970, he went on to write 16 books for Holloway House in the next 4 years, before unknown assailants murdered him and his girlfriend in front of their children. Mr. Allen was gracious enough to provide me with Goines' book contracts, his unpublished writings, and his personal correspondence, thus enlarging my understanding of the literary landscape in which both Beck and Goines worked. At the Mamie A. Clayton Library in Los Angeles, the Chicago Historical Society, and the Iceberg Center in New York, I tracked down articles on Beck. Let's check out these locations. Mamie. Hey. The Mamie. Chicago Historical Society. Okay. Where else you go? Schaumburg. Okay. Doing research, see, not just no Google. I tracked down articles on Beck. It looked like he was traveling too. His ancestors and his associates in significant Black newspapers, such as the Los Angeles Sentinel, the Chicago Defender, and the New York Amsterdam News. Significant black newspapers. Check this out, Los Angeles. Sentinel. Los Angeles Sentinel. Chicago Defender. Okay. New York, Amsterdam. Spending hundreds of hours relentlessly searching through these sources, as well as on genealogy websites such as Ancestry.com, I was able to reconstruct a vivid picture of Beck's life and the world from which he came. In January 2014, I flew to Chicago to put the final pieces of the research together for the book. During one of the coldest winters on record, I rented a car and I drove all over the Midwest, searching for the last strands of missing evidence I needed to tell Beck's full story. I went to his childhood home in Rockford, Illinois. Okay. Rockford, Illinois, where librarians helped me track down his junior high school yearbook and enrollment cards. I drove to Milwaukee, where school officials uncovered transcripts that had been locked away in a basement for nearly 80 years. Milwaukee. Okay. For 80 years. And on the 20-degree day, the negative 20-degree day, at the Wisconsin Historical Society. Wisconsin Historical, negative 20. Okay. With the invaluable help of archivist Lee Grady. Hey, Grady. Hey, Grady. Lee Grady. Okay, must be him. I uncovered Beck's psychiatric field service mental and physical examinations conducted during his incarceration at both Wisconsin State Reformation and Wisconsin State Prison. See, Wisconsin. Reformatory. Reformatory. Yep. State Reformatory. And there go to prison right there. See if we can get a even better one of the prison. Yep. It right there. State prison. You know, some people have more than one prison in their places. All right. Like many of the other documents I found, these files had never been viewed by the public, and I had to get special written permission from Diane Beck to have them open. The documents provided me with a fascinating glimpse not only into Beck's early psychology as an aspiring pimp, but also into the institutionalized racism of the prison system in which he was incarcerated. The most intriguing breakthrough I made during my research at the Wisconsin Historical Society, however, was the discovery of Beck's first common law wife, Maddie Muffins. No, she may be as far as lost in history. Let's see. See if we can find Maddie. She may be lost in history. She might have been a white woman too. Like them white women, boy. Because the files were listed alphabetically, Miss Moffin's records were stored next to her husband's. Beck went by the name Muffins until 1962. When he pulled the file, I recognized her address as that of Beck's mother's house in Milwaukee. And I realized that he had an early common law wife whom he only barely mentioned in his autobiography. Not only did her file provide extensive documentation of her record as a prostitute and pickpocket, including court transcripts of her arrest for nearly cutting off a man's thumb in a fight, but it filled in important details of Beck's life between 1947 and 1951, 4-year span. Details that were omitted in his memoir. Maddie's own heartbreaking story that were omitted. Well, wait a minute. Heartbreaking story. She ended up going to Texas State Prison for murder. She went to Texas State Prison. Had to take her to Texas. Put her in prison. A little bit too wild, lady. Welcome to Texas. All right. For murder. Provided me with the final information I needed to understand the complex life of Robert Beck. For more than a decade, I have worked to combine paperback pulp novels, interviews, prison records, political essays, FBI files, newspaper articles, unpublished fiction, and letters into a single narrative of a man who was, by all accounts, even his own, corrupt and perverted. At the core of my biography have been Beck's own works, his autobiography, an essay collection, a short story anthology, the album of spoken word poetry, 5 published novels, and 2 unpublished ones. Although Beck more often than not provided a thorough and accurate confession of his life in his writings. As a master teller of tales, he also occasionally embellished the truth, switched around events in his life, and outright lied to protect his ego and reputation. Whenever possible, I have tested his stories against the historical record as well as the available prison files and interviews. and I have tried to provide the most accurate account possible of Beck's life. This is not to undermine his word or call him out on the page. On the contrary, the facts, stories, and documents I uncovered in my decade-long search for the story behind Pimp, the story of my life, only add to the complexity and ambiguous allure of one of the most influential renegades of the 20th century. Beck was, throughout his life, let's get on back over here to Beck before we end this off. Oh, Beck, Robert Beck. You on him? Oh, yeah. You on him? Going through him. You on him? Yeah. Yeah. Right there. Beck. Beck was, throughout his life, a mess of contradictions. Student at Tuskegee Institute. Tuskegee Institute. Guess it wasn't one of those experiments. You know about the Tuskegee Airmen, right? Did that experiment with syphilis on them. All of them practically most died off or too old to even get acknowledgement or sorriness for it. And then they helped them out when they were so old, way too late. They experimented on the men. Gave them syphilis. Syphilis will make you blind, give you amnesia, or you can, where you can barely think and things of that nature. Government did that. Beck didn't do that. Government did that. Intentionally did it. And you think, and what you thinking about this vaccine, intentionally did it. Hello. Chicago pimp with connections to the Black Mafia, amateur scholar of psychoanalysis, paperback writer, family man, Black Panther Party sympathizer, Hollywood darling of the blaxploitation era, the godfather of hip hop. That's a new one, never heard that. He was all these things and more, and street poison attempts to make sense of these seemingly incurrent identities. This is not a story without tragedy. Beck's life was characterized by failed relationships, sexual trauma and abuse, and fleeting glimpses of fame followed by obscurity. But it is a story of redemption and breathtaking creativity too. As a pimp, artist, and mentor, Beck was first and foremost a storyteller, arguably one of the most insightful and darkly funny we have ever seen. I have tried to tell his tale the way he might have wanted, clearly, honestly, and without moralizing. With that being stated, that's the end of that in this episode. On the next episode, coming out of Street Poison, we'll be going into the introduction. So, with that being stated, family, keep your heads up, stay focused. Oh, I took the cover off of it. And read. Peace.